David B. Yoffie, Strategy Rules, 5 Timeless Lessons from Bill Gates, Andy Grove, and Steve Jobs. Welcome to the riveting world of elite visionaries who transformed the business landscape with their remarkable strategies. In this summary of Strategy Rules, 5 Timeless Lessons from Bill Gates, Andy Grove, and Steve Jobs, you'll learn how these iconic CEOs mastered the art of setting priorities, understanding customer needs, and overcoming the market's limitations to successfully turn their visions into reality. Gain valuable insight on how they built industry standards, mastered the art of taking calculated risks, and leveraged platforms to create exponential growth. Discover their unique leadership styles and how they injected their individual talents into the DNA of their companies.
The key to top company success. Top companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Intel all have one thing in common: vision. They started with a clear picture of where they wanted to go and then developed strategies to make their visions realities. Setting priorities was critical to their success, as was anticipating the needs of customers. Gordon Moore predicted the exponential increase in computing power, which Andy Grove used to shift Intel's priority from selling complete computers to microprocessors, leading to Intel's dominance in the field. Similarly, Bill Gates focused on software to take advantage of computing power, while Steve Jobs saw the potential of graphical user interface technology to develop a more user-friendly computer interface. The book emphasizes that having a vision and anticipating customers' needs are essential to guide a company's success. Launching your big idea. Learn the importance of evaluating the market limits and building barriers to entry when launching a product. Dreaming of a product that can revolutionize the industry is an excellent start, but it's essential to evaluate the market's limits and surrounding technology critically. The success of a business depends on whether it can beat out competitors, so don't take any chances. For example, Intel's ProShare was an innovative conference calling service that people couldn't resist, but it failed because they didn't consider the technology limits of their era. On the other hand, when Apple was experimenting with iPad prototypes in the early 2000s, they waited till Wi-Fi became widely available to realize the device's full potential. But the job doesn't end once your product is released. You must control your competitors by building barriers to entry. One way to do this is by making your product the industry standard. Microsoft's former CEO Bill Gates made history with the development of the Disk Operating System, DOS. By selling it at a low price and making it available to many computer manufacturers, he made it the industry standard, making it almost impossible for the competitors to enter the market. So don't rush things, as timing is crucial. Evaluate the market, wait for technology to develop, and once you launch your product, find ways of controlling your competitors. These are the baby steps that set you up for a successful business. The art of taking risks. Lessons from Apple's success. As a CEO, it can be tempting to bet everything on a big change to stay competitive, but successful leaders know better. In the early 2000s, Steve Jobs made the risky decision to switch Apple's hardware from IBM to Intel microchips, a move that required a complete overhaul of the company's operating system and applications. However, Jobs knew that the success of Apple's high-selling iPod would provide a financial cushion that would allow the company to take such a risk without betting the whole company. This decision paid off in the end, as Macintosh computers' market share doubled over the next 5 years. As a CEO, it is critical to know when it's necessary to cannibalize your cash cow business to develop new products and pursuing change without putting the entire enterprise at risk. Building successful platforms. The best CEOs understand that success requires building platforms that make their product an industry standard. Steve Jobs initially focused on controlling user experience but later built a Windows version of iTunes, which quickly became a platform for Apple to control the music and digital media market. Similarly, Andy Grove's research lab discovered the need for a universal connector like the USB, which helped computer manufacturers make easier-to-use computers that sold better, ultimately leading to increased sales for Intel microprocessors. By recognizing that the computer industry was Intel's platform, Grove improved the platform and increased his product's sales. Judo and Sumo tactics for successful CEOs. Successful CEOs have to use both Judo and Sumo tactics to remain competitive in the business world. Judo tactics involve appearing harmless and sneaky maneuvers, while Sumo tactics involve power and size. A CEO must know when and how to use each tactic to outsmart their competition. For example, Steve Jobs used Judo tactics to launch iTunes by appearing as a niche outsider, leading the major record labels to underestimate Apple's weight and give them better contract negotiation terms. On the other hand, Gates used Sumo tactics by promoting Microsoft's product earlier than VisiCorp's when both were developing GUI OS in the 80s. Gates' strategy led customers to wait for Microsoft's product, forcing VisiCorp's product to wait for another 2 years before being launched. Successful CEOs must master both Judo and Sumo tactics to win the business game. Gifts and recruitment. Successful leaders like Steve Jobs, Andy Grove, and Bill Gates injected their gifts into their companies and recruited experts to complement their skills. They understood that the success of their companies was not solely reliant on their skills alone but on those who could complement their strengths. Jobs outsourced his weaknesses in finance and operations to his collaborator, Tim Cook, who shared his vision and could handle the business aspect of Apple. Grove, on the other hand, developed a systematic process for Intel to streamline engineering and manufacturing, while Gates sought a high-energy salesman in Steve Ballmer to complement his technical skills with strong salesmanship. These leaders' legacies inspire others to understand the importance of sharing strengths, outsourcing weaknesses, and diversifying knowledge to become a successful leader. The legacy of tech giants. Larry Page, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Pony Ma have transformed the way we live and communicate through their pioneering visionary companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Tencent, respectively. However, these tech geniuses were able to build their success on the foundations laid by their predecessors, such as Gates, Grove, and Jobs. Zuckerberg, for instance, opened up Facebook to third-party developers, which exponentially spiked the site's appeal and growth. In the case of Google, their substantial gambles on risky moves, such as buying YouTube for $1.6 billion and making Android's operating system free, resulted in dominating the tech industry. Google now has an 80% market share in Android and earns considerable advertising profits, with an almost $400 billion market value. These icons have created a legacy in the tech industry that inspires future entrepreneurs to think big, pursue risks, and learn from their predecessors.
As we wrap up this exciting journey through strategy rules, you've gleaned valuable insights from the lives and strategies of Bill Gates, Andy Grove, and Steve Jobs. These legendary CEOs built massive companies by understanding and prioritizing clear visions, identifying customer needs, and shrewdly navigating the evolving market. You've seen how they manipulated business environments like agile judo players and bullish sumo wrestlers, maintaining the delicate balance of risk-taking and nurturing growth. Finally, you've also learned how current industry titans like Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, and Jeff Bezos have taken a page from these pioneers in the evolution of the global tech landscape. Now, equipped with wisdom and inspiration from these iconic leaders, you too can create phenomenal success in today's dynamic and competitive world.